Every single thing you do, blinking, reaching for a coffee cup, even just forming a thought, it all kicks off with a tiny electrical spark inside your brain. So today, we're going to trace exactly how that microscopic flash becomes a real physical action.
So how does that actually happen? How does a simple decision translate into a physical movement? We're going to follow the incredible journey of that one single command, tracing it all the way from a thought firing in your brain to the muscles in your hand. And this all happens in like the blink of an eye, but it's one of the most complex processes in the entire universe. Okay, so before we can follow that spark, we need a map of the territory. Let's start with the big picture, the command center of it all. Your nervous system. You can basically think of it like this. The central nervous system, that's your brain and spinal cord, is like the high-tech headquarters where all the big decisions get made. And the peripheral nervous system, well, that's the massive network of communication lines, like couriers, sending messages out to every part of your body and bringing vital intel right back to HQ. All right, now that we've got the big picture, let's zoom in. And I mean way in. We're going to go from this huge system down to this single, incredible messenger cell that makes the whole network possible. Say hello to the neuron. This little guy is the fundamental messenger of your entire nervous system. For the longest time, scientists thought the brain was just one continuous tangled web. But pioneers like Santiago Ramón y Cajal proved that no, it's actually made of trillions of these individual, separate cells. These are the living wires that form all the circuits in your brain. And each part of this neuron has a very specific job. The dendrites, they're like these little antennae, always listening and receiving signals. The cell body, the soma, is the processor. It decides if a signal is important enough to pass along. And if the answer is yes, the axon acts like a high-speed cable, shooting that signal away towards its final destination. It's a perfect one-way street. Receive, process, and then transmit. So what exactly is this message that the neurons are zipping around? Well, at its very core, it's a spike of pure raw electricity. This electrical spike has a name, the action potential. And here is the absolutely crucial part. It's not like a dimmer switch you can turn up or down. It's an all or nothing pulse. The neuron either fires with its full, complete force every single time, or it doesn't fire at all. It's a digital 1 or a 0. So you might be wondering, well, how does my brain know the difference between a light touch and a hard punch? It's not by sending a bigger spike, but by sending more spikes, more frequently. And this all happens in this beautiful, stunningly choreographed sequence. First, tiny gates on the neuron's surface fly open, letting positive ions rush in. That creates the rising spike of electricity. Then, just as fast, other gates open to let positive ions rush back out, causing the signal to fall and basically resetting the whole system. It's like a tiny, incredibly fast row of dominoes made of electrical charge, just racing down the axon. So just how fast is that domino rally? Well, the top speed for some of our nerve signals is 120 meters per second. That's over 260 miles an hour. A command from your brain can literally reach the muscles in your foot in the blink of an eye. So what's the secret sauce for that incredible speed? It's a fatty substance called myelin. This stuff wraps around the axon and acts just like the plastic insulation on an electrical wire. It stops the signal from leaking out and lets it jump from one gap to the next, which makes it rocket fast. Without myelin, the signal just kind of crawls along slowly. This jumping action is what makes our neural superhighways possible. But even at 260 miles an hour, that electrical signal eventually hits a roadblock. It gets to the very end of the axon. So how does it pass its message to the next neuron in line when there's a physical gap in the way? This all happens at a place called the synapse. It's this microscopic gap, and it's where the most critical handoff in the entire nervous system happens. Because right here, the message has to completely change its form to cross that divide. Okay, so here's how the handoff goes down. The electrical pulse arrives, and that triggers the release of these chemical messengers called neurotransmitters. These chemicals then float across that tiny gap. They dock with the next neuron, and that kickstarts a brand new electrical signal on the other side. So the message goes from electrical to chemical, and then right back to electrical. It's kind of like a ferry carrying a car across a river so it can get back on the road and continue its journey. Now, while there are dozens of these different chemical messengers, pretty much all of your brain activity boils down to this finely tuned balance between these two heavyweights. Glutamate is the brain's main go signal. It excites the next neuron, basically telling it to fire. GABA, on the other hand, is the brain's stop signal. It inhibits the next neuron, telling it to stay quiet. All of your complex thoughts are built from this simple push and pull. So we've seen how the signal travels and how it makes that chemical leap. But what does all this mean in the real world? And maybe more importantly, what happens when this incredibly intricate system starts to break down? Remember that myelin insulation we talked about? How absolutely crucial it is for speed, for making sure the signal gets where it needs to go without fizzling out? Well, what do you think happens if that critical insulation gets compromised? This is exactly what happens in a disease like multiple sclerosis. The body's own immune system actually attacks and destroys that myelin sheath. What that does is it creates a kind of short circuit in the system. The electrical signals can slow way down, get distorted, or just stop altogether. And this is what leads to such a wide range of debilitating neurological symptoms. It really makes the abstract idea of myelin immediately and devastatingly tangible. Okay, so after looking at all those microscopic details, let's zoom all the way back out again and look at the magnificent, just mind-boggling result of all these tiny little events working together. You have billions of these neurons, each one a tiny biological machine running on simple electrical pulses and chemical handoffs, all firing together in perfect concert. It's not chaos at all, it's a symphony. And this machinery is what creates every single thought, every emotion, every memory, and every action you will ever experience. And what's just truly amazing is that with modern technology like fMRI, we can actually watch this symphony as it happens. We can see entire regions of the brain light up with activity, connecting that tiny microscopic journey of a single signal multiplied by billions to these grand-scale patterns that are, quite literally, the physical form of our thoughts. And that leaves us with one final, pretty profound question to think about. If the entire richness of your conscious experience, every idea you've ever had, every emotion you've ever felt, is built from nothing more than these simple, identical electrical spikes, what is it in that specific pattern of tiny flashes that truly makes you, you?